Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dork List. My name is Jordan Fay.
I'm Darian Christian.
And I'm Jeremy McLeod.
Yes, after so many freaking episodes of finally, just saying, hey, maybe we'll have Jeremy in the next episode. We actually delivered.
We finally delivered because Darian is awesome.
I'm here. Hello, everybody.
It's good to have a guest again,
especially since we kind of haven't seen each other in so long.
Oh yeah.
And again, we've been chalking Jeremy up since episode 2? Probably.
My god!
The internet's probably going, who the frick is this Jeremy guy?
Who is this guy? Why did they
I
keep
think I just called Jeremy Jordamy.
It's alright.
It's okay.
Right.
Why do these guys keep bringing him up, and why doesn't he ever show up? And it's just because of reasons.
Dramatic suspense.
Well, now we have him, and he's gonna tag along in our very special episode today.
Yeah.
Where we're covering a bunch of stuff. A bunch of different topics. We have
different
another
topics, people.
We have another discussion topic in the middle of the episode, like we did last episode with fandoms. Although this one kind of has to do with fandoms as well, but this time it has to deal with actual source material, but we're gonna get into that later. The first thing we're going to talk about, though, is...
Daisho Con!
I
wasn't there!
Jeremy was not there. For reasons. As he cries on the couch. As I cry in
the corner.
Hey, he got to have his week before Daisho. Let's not...
This is true.
Yes, my moment.
But yeah, this past weekend was Daisho Con, and what an experience that was.
Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, you go first.
That wasn't Cookie, and I'm pretty sure we discussed, that you're having the first go at it.
No, I thought we discussed that you were going to have the first
No,
go.
because remember, I have the talking point that it has to go afterwards, because we connected stories, remember? That's the thing.
Okay, whatever.
Darian, talk first!
Darian, talk!
Oh my god, I will! God! Okay, Daisho Con. It was a pretty... decent weekend. This is the first time I've ever gone to a convention. Well, actually, it's the second time I've gone to a convention on a Thursday before the con starts.
Nice.
So I got to go up Thursday night with Jordan over here. Awesome. It was a nice drive. First time It
was a good thing we went on Thursday, too, because the weather on Friday was terrible.
There was a line leading all the way back to the lobby at the Kalahari.
Oh my gosh.
That was for pre-registration, yeah, but the actual driving, too, the weather turned bad on Friday.
Yeah. I went down to visit my friends who live. Actually, all of us know them. Our friends who go down to Parkside in Kenosha. Me and my girlfriend got there just as it started snowing. So we're like, just missed it. So I can imagine getting to the con on a Thursday must have been really, really nice.
Oh, it was fantastic. I got to pick up my badge in a minute.
We got to pick up both of our badges in a minute. It was great.
Compared to the people on Friday who had to wait anywhere between 2 and 4 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It was bad, but if anything, I got to stay with some pretty cool people who I didn't know most of the people in that room. To former alumni of the Dork List, Stephanie, thank you for allowing me to stay with you. So you get a shout out. To a shout out to everybody who was in that room. You made my weekend. It was fun. Thank you. Especially when you guys let me be a jerk to pretty much everybody in the room.
Yeah, when you kicked everybody out for Digimon Tri, which we are going to talk about later in the podcast.
I've talked about
Digimon. You know us by now. You know we're gonna talk about that.
We got a lot of things.
Come on.
But yeah, but other things at Daisho, 2 panels. What is Puresu didn't go off the way it panned out because not many people showed up. But once again, I opened at the convention.
And I think part of that, though, too, was the fact that pre-registration was
forever
terrible. And people were still getting to the convention and whatnot.
For people who've never been to Daisho starts at 4 in the afternoon rather than opposed to 10 in the morning as you would at ASEN or you would have at Anime Milwaukee. It starts pretty late in the afternoon, which is a good thing because then you have people there and then you have pre-con shenanigans, which is fun. Especially for the people people I stayed with because you could do swimming, you could hang out with people, see people in the hallways, do stuff. It was fun. Marvel Comics 101 did pretty decent. Alright, I got to hype up my entire room. I didn't get to read a comic book this time around because I kind of dragged on towards the end. I forgot my shameless self-promotion slide. So I wasn't able to properly
Shucky darn.
I wasn't able to properly promote the show, which really kind of kicks me in the shenanigans. But pretty much, I had a great time at Daisho. Didn't get to go swimming again, but
hey, you know.
Which the funny thing is, you talked about it, like going to do all these.
Nobody would go with me. Nobody would go with me.
You gotta be a man and go by yourself.
They wouldn't notice me. I was the Kohai and they wouldn't notice me. Way to rub it in, Jordan.
Me, Jeremy.
Yeah.
You feel good about yourself?
I do. I do.
How dare you?
Oh, man.
If it's any consolation, I only got to go swimming once during the weekend.
Comparison with my none.
Well, I'm sure some people got to go
That's really
swimming
heartfelt
like
and
4 times.
sympathetic.
The sympathy is there.
It's not there.
There's sympathy, but there is no empathy.
There is no empathy.
Hey, you want a sandwich?
Do you want me to make you a sandwich?
Get your sandwich out of my face!
Okay.
Anyway.
I'll have a nibble.
Okay.
Moving along.
My turn?
Go ahead.
Okay. So, my con experience was pretty great. Not gonna lie. I wouldn't say this was one of my definitely better con experiences. Like Darian, I got to stay with people that I don't normally get to room with, but they were all still people that I knew. So, it was really nice. The guy that was hosting the room, my friend Andy, his parents came along with, and by God, we had so much food, it's not even funny. Like, we had originally planned to have shrimp scampi the Saturday night of the con. Yeah.
Fancy!
What?
It didn't happen, though, unfortunately.
I was about to say, how dare you
say.
eat properly at a convention? What kind of con-goer do you call yourself? You're supposed to be eating off protein bars, nut yards, and candy.
Look, to be fair, like, my diet mainly consisted of chips and protein bars.
There you go.
There you go.
That's the con-goer we know.
But
that's the con-goer.
I will say that I probably had a third of one of the taco dip trays and tortilla chips.
Nice.
At least a third of it. I was just like going to town because we didn't get the shrimp, but
Can't go wrong
I mean,
with
no,
taco
we
dip.
had it though. We had the shrimp in the freezer. Just never happened. We had because we just had too much food. I spent $16 on food the entire weekend.
Jeez.
I spent
$6 or so on a tuxedo tort on Friday that lasted me the entire
What the
weekend.
heck is a tuxedo tort?
It's a very, very fancy chocolate cake.
So you spent $6 on chocolate cake?
And then I didn't spend money again until on Sunday when we went back home in Delafield when we got Burger King.
Yeah.
That was the only.
Long story short, Darian spent $80 on food alone.
That's very close to what I spent at one booth in the Artist Alley alone. I literally bought like 4 prints, and I bought the entire Haikyuu volleyball team in button form.
I didn't realize you watched that.
The look.
I love my precious cinnamon roll volleyball anime / manga. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's such...
I watched like the new episode on Saturday during the con.
Well, I watched anime at the convention
I
too.
read the new chapter too on that same day.
What else would you do at a convention, Jordan?
Usually I don't watch anime because the Wi-Fi connection is terrible, but thankfully for this one, it wasn't.
Kalahari was like, "Oh, by the way, our connection is solid."
And
Amazing.
Literally no restrictions either. You just click on the Wi-Fi, bam, you got it.
There you go.
You don't have to sign anything. You don't have to constantly keep logging in again and again. You just had it.
Once again, makes Daisho one of my favorite conventions because everything's accessible. It's one of the least drama-free conventions I've ever been to, and I think it's probably the second. No, third biggest convention I've ever been to.
Well, and this year was huge.
This
too.
year was huge.
And we can say that, like, as an example, because of the Friday pre-registration lines being astronomical. Other than that, my two big cosplays of the weekend were Major Armstrong on Friday, which took 3 hours to get into the bald cap, but I thank my friend Leah for getting me into it and being as patient as she was and helping me with that process.
Yay, Leah!
And then Saturday, I was Josuke Higashikata from JoJo Part 4, Diamonds Unbreakable, and I got to host my JoJo panel.
That was an experience?
It was an experience, because, oh my gosh, there were so many people.
Let's talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about your panel.
Right. It was an amazing experience. My only regret is that it was not an hour and a half long like I had originally requested.
And Darian showed up to ruin everything.
Darian didn't ruin everything. Darian held me up a little bit here and there, but like the panel started late. It started about 10 minutes late. Part of that was because the last panel kind of went over, and when that was over, I had a huge line outside of the door, and nobody knew when to come in.
We didn't know that there was a line.
We didn't even know there was a line.
Because we were in it before.
Right, because Darian and I wanted to be kind of like prepared and just be in like the panel room beforehand.
And they had a podcast panel before we did. So we had to learn a few things.
Right. Like being consistent with how
an actual podcast.
Okay, but we're not going to talk about that. But
we're sorry for leaving you.
There's so much to talk about with JoJo, and I did not get to cover like everything. I sped through like the last 2 parts of JoJo.
You should have seen him.
Oh my gosh! I'm like, gotta go.
I was half praying that Jordan would get struck by lightning so he would turn into the Flash so he could say everything he needed to say.
But like it still went over really well. I did not get to talk about my favorite and least favorite characters from every part. I did get to kind of like I frustrated the audience I frustrated the audience at several points when I was talking about my opinions. But,
frustrating, is that what we're gonna call it? Ladies and gentlemen, he nearly got into a fight with
I nearly got into a fight with several people.
I had to pull him
I nearly got into a
audience.
fight with my dad. My illegitimate dad. I almost got in a fight with my grandma.
I had to pull him off of them or away from them.
That was only the one time where somebody like made fun of my hair. I literally went up to the guy and Darian pulled me back to the stage.
I had to pull him back to the stage and like, dude, it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
But,
it's not worth it.
I can't thank the people that came enough for coming to see and support the panel. I just hope that I can improve it for the next convention that is accepted at. And hopefully, like, I have better time constraints.
We're looking at you, Anime Milwaukee.
Yeah.
We're looking at you.
If I get the hour and a half, I'm going to have no worries, with the time in that. If I get like an hour again, then that's something where like I can cut down on certain parts. Like I won't have to go into huge details about part 4 anymore, like I've been doing. But
we'll figure this out, especially with like the way that Anime Milwaukee books their panel. We just got to make sure that they're, I will make a small jab at it. I want to be able to actually submit my panel, and it's still not up there yet.
Yeah. But speaking of JoJo and JoJo Part 4,
dun!
Big announcement!
I have more news on JoJo Part 4 that we didn't have previously. So, Diamond Unbreakable is coming in April 2016. So it's coming very, very soon.
Nice.
It's not going to be in this upcoming anime season, but the spring one. So that's pretty great.
For people who can't see, I'm doing vigorous jazz hands the entire time.
There's supposedly going to be a new promo video for it, December 19th to the 20th, in Japan. So hopefully that gets we get to see the character designs and that. There is a promotional image already that like the style of it is definitely different than what we had from the first 3 parts. So that being said, we also have news on the voice actors that are going to be playing like the 5 main roles. So first and foremost, Jotaro is going to be played by the same guy that was playing him in part 3. So there's going to be that, that connection already. That's, oh, hey, this is a character that we know and recognize. Going on to the title character, though, Josuke is going to be played by Yuki Ono, who is known as Kagami in Kuroko no Basket, Isami Aldini in Shokugeki no Soma, as well as for Darian and me, he was Kiryu in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. That was an interesting noise.
I'm allowed to make a fanboy noise. It's part of being a fanboy.
That's fine. The person that's playing Koichi is going to be Yuki Kaji. For another Darian and me thing, he's known for playing Fudo and Ichinose in Inazuma 11. Yep, that was another thing. And he was also the person that voiced Johnny Joestar in the All-Star Battle video game. Oh. So that's kind of interesting that there's that transition.
Yeah, that is kind of cool, honestly.
Yeah, like, so if you want to know kind of like what his voice sounds like, you can play that game.
Get it from the game, yeah.
For Okuyasu, he's played by Wataru Takagi, who's known for playing Ganju in Bleach, Obito in Naruto, Zonj-sama in Toriko, as well as Hammerhead recently in episodes 4 and 6 of One Punch Man.
Oh, interesting.
And then probably the most interesting one on this list in terms of casting is Rohan Kishibe, who is going to be played by Takahiro Sakurai. And like the person that's voicing him is the same person that voices him in the Eyes of Heaven game that's coming up next. But he's also known for playing Suzaku in Code Geass, Yukanda in D. Gray Man, and interestingly enough, Tentomon from the Digimon series.
What?
Right?
It's really weird, especially when you hear Tentomon's voice.
It really is such like it's weird to think about. Like just forgetting about JoJo for a minute. Like Tentomon is Suzaku. Suzaku. I don't know why I go away from the PowerPoint slide for 1 second.
It's right in front of you.
I'd switch screens. It's the same guy as Suzaku. And it's just like, what? How?
His voice game is solid.
His voice game is solid. So I'm very interested by this cast. I think it's very good casting all around. And I'm really excited for it, especially since I'm mad that I didn't get to cover this in the panel that I had, but like most people know Part 4 because of the Duwang translations, which are the most god awful translations in terms of the manga. Like, period. Like, Part 4 is literally the only part that has these translation problems. Like, Jeremy shared this video on my Facebook at one point several months ago where he's like, hey, Jordan, look at this. And I'm like, I know. I've already read it. Like, somebody dubbed over the Duwang translations, and it's...
It's glorious.
It's glorious, but it's also... absolutely terrible.
It is so terrible.
So it's great for people that want to get into Part 4. That the anime is finally going to happen. And then it kind of begs the question for me then, what's going to happen in terms of animating the next part, Part 5, Golden Wind / Vento Oreo. I think. Like, if I were to guess, it would have happened, I would guess it would have happened late 2017. And the reason why I'm going to say that is I fully believe that Part 4 is going to get broken up into 2 seasons, just like Stardust Crusaders was.
Definitely.
Because Part 4 is slightly longer than Part 3, and... like, I had this discussion at Daisho Con. Like, I have a feeling that the way that they're going to split it up is that they're going to split up Part 4 into the Bow and Arrow arc for, like, a first season. And then the second season is going to focus on... I'm not going to use the name, so the serial killer arc. Because that more or less divides the series into 2 halves.
Well, and plus, it's an incredibly good technique to do when you're starting a TV show based on something people love, because it gives them more content, and it almost feels like two completely new shows almost, you know,
yeah.
because I mean, for those of you who don't know, I've only seen the anime portions of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. So when I got into Stardust Crusaders, having the 2 separate parts there was incredible because it felt like it had the same characters there progressing through it, but it was 2 completely immense and long stories. It gave you a lot of content and left you wanting more.
Agreed.
said.
And most people really did want more with how it ended.
No kidding!
They were
Right?
like, okay, part 4 announcement? Part 4? Part 4?
Guys, you guys
No.
remember how the internet kind of
No.
freaked out, like, after that ending, and they're all like, part 4, part 4, part 4, and nothing.
Yeah.
Nobody heard a thing. I remember,
There was
especially
a
the
there
both
was,
of you going, what the heck is going on?
There was literally a blog created for the sole purpose of saying, hey, another week has gone by. JoJo Part 4 is still not confirmed.
With pictures of disappointed characters, one of my favorite being of Polnareff.
Yep. Oh, Polnareff.
Polnareff!
What they did to you in Part 5. Oh, okay.
I don't even want
But
to know.
that more or less covers it for JoJo. But because we talked about Tentomon, we get to transition.
Guess what
into-
time it is?
Digimon!
It's Digimon Tri.
Okay, as the last time,
And he didn't even react to the pun.
are you
Digimon
freaking,
Tri.
are you freaking kidding me?
Digimon Tri!
Ladies and gentlemen, your resident trolls, Jordan Fay and Jeremy McLeod.
You're welcome.
You guys received the award.
You're welcome.
I can't
So-
high five you from across the
I'm in
room.
Jordan. High five.
High five.
Resident Trolls.
Okay.
But anyway,
We're gonna let.
I love how
Darian take
Jordan
the
kind of
reins.
like says, well, Darian kicked out his entire room for the entirety for watching Tri. Because I did say in my last podcast, I would not be watching Tri with anybody. I would not watch Tri with Jordan. I would not watch Tri with my fellow uber fanboy in Alan Sharpley, Dork List alumni.
Well, and to be fair with that, though, Alan wasn't a Daisho Con.
Yeah.
And to be fair with that as well, we didn't
No, that it was going to be dropped the next day.
because as we had told you guys several times, Digimon Tri was being released in like movie installments.
Yeah.
6 of them.
Guess what happened? It got released in
did-
separate increments and looked like episodes.
Well-
It was a film,
Yes.
but it was divided into episodes.
It was divided into 4 episodes so it could be
Which, if
streamed
anything-
outside of Japan.
Yeah, especially Crunchyroll. The very next day after it aired, which is technically the very next day after it did get dropped, because time difference.
Time zones.
Time zones.
Time zones.
Hate time zones. But moving on, it dropped the next day. We were all really happy. One of my roommates at Daisho Con got it for me, and I'm like, "Hey guys, can I have the room for at least like an hour and 25 minutes?" I'm like, I gotta watch these by myself, and I don't want to be disturbed. So it's a Friday night. I'm at a convention, and I'm just sitting there and watching Tri by my lonesome in the room.
And I didn't find out about it until Darian posted after he'd finished watching it. And by that time, it was like really late on Friday night. I'm like, I'm not staying up later. I'm not. I need sleep. So like I watch it. I watched episode 1 the next day during breakfast. And then I proceeded to watch the next 3 parts while I was eating taco dip later that night.
Well, for me, it was like, I remember my roommates seeing me after I watched episode 4, and they looked at me like, "Dude, are you okay?" And I looked at them like, they didn't answer anything! Literally, Digimon Tri left you wanting more, and left you with more questions than answers.
But because of that, like, I think this is what people wanted. Because, like, yes, the questions that we had are still there, but, like, it set things up really nicely.
It set things up really nicely, and
the animation was perfect for the tone and the battles. Like, everything meshed really well, and it looked great.
yeah,
Plus, it left you wanting more, but for a good reason.
for a good reason.
Right. The opening animation...
I loved it. It's so
new,
well done.
The new version of Butterfly, like the full version of it played in episode 1, and then you got like the minute 30 version for the next 3 episodes, as well as there was an ending theme as well. That was like really cutesy with like pixels and stuff.
Yeah. Also, 2 new Digimon in this film.
Well, technically 3.
Well, 2 new Digimon to the mainstream public.
Okay, two new
I
ones
say
to the
2
mainstream
because
public.
we've known about Alphamon for years. I don't
yeah.
include Alphamon in this.
This is true.
Meikumon, which is the brand spanking new Digimon, who is the partner of the new protagonist in Digidestined, Mako.
Who I already ship with Tai because of
Everybody does!
because of reasons.
Because reasons.
And a new Digimon that's relatively new, only like a year and a half old, Hackmon, who is a legacy of one of the Royal Knights.
Okay.
So honestly, I'm expecting a huge Royal Knight presence in this anime. Also, speaking of shipping, somebody got shut down in the first 20 minutes.
You are way too happy about this.
I am not way too happy about this. I am ecstatic.
That's what way too happy is.
No, way too happy is not the right term. Ecstatic is the term. Ladies and gentlemen, somebody got shut down. I won't tell you who, but if you know me at all, you're gonna know who I'm talking about. And Void Period, it's done in the greatest way, and I can already tell you, I love his character more now that he has been shut down.
Okay, you might as well just frickin' say it.
I'm not gonna say it. Because
Fine, we're not gonna say it.
Also, somebody's got a girlfriend.
Oh, jeez.
Somebody's got a girlfriend.
It's literally the one character you would not expect to have a girlfriend.
Not to mention, nobody in the series believes him. Nobody in the series believes him.
Because it's the one character you would never expect to have
Also,
a girlfriend.
Now they'll actually mention a character's name. Guys, Izzy finally found out the proper way to use the internet when he accidentally Googled girls.
Oh!
Mister, I can't stop blushing for like 5 seconds when
Mimi shows up.
contact with
It's
any
so true!
female.
He finally figured out how to properly use the internet.
Yeah, he uses the internet to buy clothes, like using a literal he put in his own specifications body-wise
and made his own
program because he went to a store one time and could not handle social interaction with a girl trying to help him like pick out clothes.
Guys, ladies, you're gonna love Izzy, and if you didn't, you're gonna have reason after this.
The guy who's arguably the smartest person in like the Digimon series,
and he can't talk to
girls because it's a cliche that
he's a nerd. He's us. He's a nerd. He's us. We understand.
But like other than that, like I love how they revamped the Digivolution sequence. At least we only get to see
the champion version.
Right, the champion Digivolution, although we also get to see a certain other thing in there that is absolutely gorgeous. Like, I can't.
He doesn't get an actual Digivolution sequence, but when he does Digivolve, I'm gonna tell you right now, you're gonna love seeing Omnimon / Omegamon do it. It's not a Digivolve sequence, but it still looks pretty boss.
It's not a cutaway thing. It's like a live transformation that happens, and it's, oh my god, like, because again, the animation style plays beautifully into this.
Yes, and I think that, especially in leaving it wanting more, it gives us time to speculate, especially since we now have a release date for the next part.
Yeah.
March of next year. I don't remember if it's the 13th or the 16th. One of those 2 dates.
It's again, for us, it's during con time.
It's during con time for Anime Milwaukee.
We don't know necessarily.
It's either going to be the week after or the week before.
Right. But like around the time. So it's just like, hey, if it's the week before, then obviously every Digimon panel in the world is going to be like, haha, we have new material!
Well, one of my guys who was at Daisho Con, one of my friends, Adam, who runs the Digimon panel I always attend, purely because he doesn't like not having me there now. Because I'm there all the time. Yeah. But
Darian's just like a permanent fixture.
I'm a permanent fixture in that panel. You'll know me once you hear me. But
yeah.
He actually had a screening party that I was unable to attend because I was
gonna say, like, I was there when he was like, Digimon Tri screening, 1 o'clock. And I was just like,
Okay.
I looked at him and I'm like, I have Yu-Gi-Oh! Beforehand, and then I have my panel to do.
And he was like, I already watched it. And he was like, well, you're watching it again. And I was like,
Okay.
I'm like, okay, if the tournament's over by then, I'll be right there. But I hopefully, in one of the new preview, I think it was a poster that was released. I'm not really sure because I'm seeing like mixed places of finding it. But Imperial Dramon is apparently on the poster for the next one.
which, in terms of length, in terms of like converting it to like.
Wait, this is a side thing. We're smacking at fruit flies. They're all over my house. I apologize.
Oh boy.
Yeah, but like according to Darian, what he said is that in terms of length, the next one is only gonna be about like
72 minutes.
So approximately 3, standard episodes
That's
long.
but that's what they've said now. But they might do more. I don't know.
Because over the course of the 6 installments, there's supposedly going to be 32 episodes worth.
Yeah.
Which is great, because, I mean, that's a little more than, like an extended anime season.
Yeah.
Since, most of them nowadays only get really like 12 episodes, unless it's got source material.
Here's hoping that we might get 3 installments in 2016. We might. Here's hoping that we do, but I highly doubt it.
Right, and I said personally, like, I wanted to see them sooner rather than later, just so we could get like another series or whatever after that, like getting closer to like the 20th anniversary.
Yeah, essentially, if they do 3 installments next year, we'll be done by this time, about in 2017.
In 2017, yeah,
we'll be done about this time, 2017. And at least it'll be done. And we don't have to speculate. As for speculation, we'll save that for a different episode, as we do have to, I think, move along.
Yeah.
All right.
Other big news in television stuff with the with Gravity Falls.
Yep.
That started. They just aired a new episode, and there's only one episode.
Only one left. Yes.
Only one left.
One of the things that got announced over Daisho Weekend. We conned.
We conned.
But there's only one more episode of Gravity Falls left.
Period.
Alex
Hirsch is officially ending the series. It's not getting canceled. He is finishing it. Because from what he said this entire time, he had, a beginning, middle, and end that he wanted for Gravity Falls, and like, this is going to end it. And like, I'm sure, like, Darian and me, especially since we watch it.
Yeah, especially since I haven't even.
I've only seen a couple episodes here.
Yeah, okay. Especially since, guys, I still haven't seen Weird Mageddon Part 1. And I'm proud of myself for not seeing it.
I haven't seen a few episodes leading up to it, but I still need to see Weird Mageddon as well. But I assure you that Darian and I have mixed feelings on this. We're obviously sad that it is ending,
because there was a lot of things I still wanted to see, especially since there has been like a twinkle of romance in this thing for certain characters, and I know we're shipping
that's fair
characters in a kid's show, but at the same point, it's like I wish there'd have been a bit more time for that. But maybe they'll solve it. But I doubt.
With only one episode remaining, we doubt it.
There might have been stuff in the last episode, but like I said, I haven't seen it, so
exactly.
But that being said, we can both agree that we're happy that it's ending rather than getting canceled.
Yeah.
Because at least then we get a complete story rather than.
And they might be long. They might.
Right.
I don't know how long Weird Mageddon Part 2 was.
Weird Mageddon Part 2 is a regular episode length. Weird Mageddon 3, though, I believe is going to be like an hour long.
So that's good news. Well, hopefully it's like an hour long instead of being like a TV hour long.
Yeah.
Because at least then you have enough time to solve plot holes, but knowing Gravity Falls, they're going to go, oh, well, what about this? At the very, very end, which they'll probably do. But
it wouldn't be an Alex Hirsch thing without it.
Yeah.
But one of the points that we were making in bringing up this is that it brings up a really good discussion on, finishing serializations on things like anime, TV shows, and manga and stuff like that.
Because let's face it, a lot of things don't get finished. A lot of things don't that should, and a lot of things that go on for too long end up getting stale.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, this is going back a bit, but like one of my favorite examples of a show being canceled is Speed Racer. On the very last episode of Speed Racer that ever aired, the announcer still says at the very end, "And tune in next week for another thrilling episode of Speed Racer." And what happened? There was nothing. There was no announcement that the series was being. Because I mean, obviously in 1964 there wasn't really internet. There was just newspaper and TV guide.
It was just done, and people were left wanting it and not told a thing.
Exactly. And now with social media and like information traveling in a split second, when
you know whether or not something gets canceled.
You find out literally 5 seconds after the tweet has been.
It's not even 5 seconds. You're allowed to keep track of how well a show is doing.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll know when it's going to get canceled before the cancellation episode even happens.
Yeah.
So and that which brings us to the core point of this discussion of, like how what should like serialization people aim for? Should they aim for having a complete beginning, middle, story, and end, like with Gravity Falls, or more stories or some stories that have a specific set plot point and don't take too much from the fan base? Or should you have a beginning and a middle, see where it goes, and then develop further content based on the fans' reaction to it?
Yeah.
Which both have their pros and cons, but obviously, some being more focused on money, others being more focused on a solid product.
Yeah.
So, and that's what we're here to discuss.
Yeah, I think the best way for Once Upon a Time fans, think about how the creators for Once Upon a Time also did Once Upon a Time in Wonderland. That was one season, and they never did another one. They said, nope, we're not doing a second show. We're just doing this one season by itself.
Yeah.
But you look at Once Upon a Time and how successful it's been. This season, to me, this current ongoing season that's going on right now, should be the last season. We should not drag it out any longer. But there's not any talks of it being done. There's not any talks of how far it's going to go. But especially where the show is, and this is going to be non-spoiler related, I'm just using this as an example, is that it's the creators or the sponsors of the show should know when something should be shelved instead of
prolonging
it. Because think Firefly.
Exactly.
Firefly. Think about how popular Firefly maybe not was at the time, but how much it has been over 10 years.
Exactly.
The cult following that it has achieved.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention, it's I think maybe one of the only examples in history of a fan base resulting in a successful movie due to them raising the money for it, basically themselves. And this actually brings up a fun point. There was I have no idea how legitimate this article is, but I know it was shared by many of my Firefly fans. It was a news article saying because the cast got together again at some con, and someone posed the question of a second season happening, and they said they would love it. And don't knife me here, but I kind of disagree. While it would be great to see more Firefly episodes come out, because it was canceled. That was
canceled 10 years ago.
Exactly. It was an unfortunate truth that happened. The fans, though, however, came together, and through guerrilla marketing and other types of fundraising, we got Serenity. And to me, the ways, and this is a beautiful thing about Serenity, is that you can watch it without having seen Firefly, because the way it introduces characters, it almost feels like a standalone. But if you've seen Firefly, you can very easily tell it's a continuation, and almost a climax and a conclusion.
Yeah.
I feel like that was almost that could almost be considered the series finale to Firefly. So while obviously further content would be amazing, with very heavy plot elements that happened in Serenity, I feel like without those elements being there, a continuation of Firefly wouldn't necessarily be a good thing.
Yeah, and especially now. I mean, it's also, you gotta consider length. You gotta consider how long it's been between something. Think about, like, how literally this year, Constantine got canceled, and there was all this crowdfunding. People tried to resurrect that show and try to bring it, and it did not happen. But what happened anyway? Matt Ryan, the guy who played Constantine, was on Arrow instead. They put him on Arrow instead of just saying, oh, well, we're not going to do anything. No, we'll put you on Arrow.
They put him into a different show.
They put him into a different show that they now confirmed was in the same universe.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's all you need.
Exactly.
And especially for Serenity. People did crowd raise and do all that funding for Serenity. But guess what? Guess about the fan reaction after Serenity came out. Some fans were like, you and I were like, oh, thank you, we're done.
Exactly.
And then everybody else was like, no, we want more.
Exactly. Some people, like, sometimes, you gotta learn to appreciate something for
what you get.
For what you get, and not, continually want to pump out ridiculous amounts of nonsense, like, because eventually, like, look what happens, like, two gigantic examples are Bleach and Naruto. How many times have you heard someone complain about the amount of filler that's in some of those?
That brings up a good point, though, like, although that is with the anime. But Naruto at least did end. And
it did end.
At least that one had, and Darian disagrees to a point, but like a satisfying ending, more or less.
Yes. It was a satisfying ending overall. There's just stuff I don't agree with.
Yes, there are points that Darian disagrees
with. But it was ended perfectly.
It was ended. And like in no point did the integrity of the content diminish before the ending. Because in all honesty, that final war, hands down, was amazing.
You finished it with the war instead of like finishing of like most anime series will do. In like that kind of a setting, it'll be like a stab in the dark. Yeah. Boom, dead. That's the entire thing.
And while yes, at points they did decide to throw in character backstories here and there, it wasn't.
It all meant something,
right? Yeah. But it wasn't flooded in there and just thrown in there like it is currently with Bleach and how it's quote unquote trying to end.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of just mind-numbingly bad how some of it is. Like, between chapter to chapter right now, it's not good.
Well, it's like... But you also have to take into stuff like
that
stuff that should go on further, but doesn't.
Which is a good example of that is, like, Jump serializations
Shaman
in
King
general.
Flower.
Well...
That wasn't Jump.
No, that was a cancellation due to extenuating circumstances.
Yeah.
What I'm more so referring to is with, and the way I learned about this is through Bakuman, which is a series that had a legitimate beginning and end that was planned, just like Death Note was before it, and now those creators have their new Angel series, which I read the first chapter, really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the next one. But that being said, is that the way that different series make it through Jump is that there are opinion polls in that with every magazine, and it has the rankings for which series are where on like each time they have a new chapter, and that is part of what determines like what series has the cover and which ones have the color center issue, or the color pages in the center of the issue.
Yeah.
And the lower you are on the ranking, the more in jeopardy you are of your series getting canceled in favor of bringing in new ones. Mm-hmm. And that's how you see a lot of the time where, like, for example, like a semi-promising new series starts up in Shonen Jump, and then you kind of look at it and it's like, wait, this seems like a really rushed ending all of a sudden. And that happened with like a few of the ones that I was really interested in, like here and there. But like even Beelzebub, I felt like
that was. I remember hearing a huge uproar about that.
It had very, very, very rushed ending, I felt.
Well, this is where I kind of have to say where it's like, I think for certain like stories and how rights are adjusted to it, where if it's like gonna get cut for something, I'd rather see it get cut and the rights released so it can move on in another shape or form.
At some point, yeah.
At some point, like and I wanted to make this like transition because this is something we can talk about. Like how Young Justice got canceled, and then it was made way for Teen Titans Go.
There, yeah.
Well, and then the fact that even Teen Titans in general had the worst. Just it wasn't even a cliffhanger. Really, it was just
what
done.
It was just people don't think about that movie though. But the movie wasn't about the team as a whole. It was about Starfire and Robin.
Well, and even that being said, though, that wasn't necessarily a continuation after...
It was.
Okay.
It was a continuation.
I thought it was... Okay. Well, fair enough, but, like, it still kind of left us wanting more. Like, in a way, it would have been better if they would have just ended things after the huge fight...
With the Brotherhood. And then that was it. But then they added an episode which, oh, by the way, Tara might be alive.
Yeah.
And she was. She is, but she has no clue what the heck is going on.
So...
But at this point, it's anticlimactic. You leave people with, like...
a bad sense of wanting more.
With, especially when you think about the Tara's character in general, if people have read DC, where Tara's character never has a good ending. And Teen Titans, honestly, I would say, for Tara's character, on that type of scale, that had one of the better ones. Where her powers are gone, she doesn't remember anything about what she's done, and that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'd say to more or less close the discussion, I think... I applaud, creators who have that beginning and end already planned from the get-go and know what direction they want to take it, and the producers in that allow them to see their creation fully realized. And if need be, coming back at like a later date, whether it's the year after or several years down the road, when like an actual like decent plot emerges, that's a good thing.
Let it emerge.
Like with like Incredibles 2, I would say like. For years, people were panning for a sequel to Incredibles.
We didn't need to have one.
But the creator said, we'd be interested in doing a sequel to Incredibles, but we're not going to do it unless we have a good story, because more or less they didn't want to besmirch the name of the Incredibles by like
pumping out a sequel right away.
Exactly.
And also
and
recently,
unsatisfactory one.
Another recent example, Godzilla. They didn't want to do another movie after that.
Yeah.
Like after the recent Godzilla, they said, nope, this is it. We're going to leave the door open, but it's not an intentional door.
Yeah.
We're not going to, like, say, we're going to do a sequel. No, this is it.
And
honestly, after that Godzilla, I liked it. It needs to be by itself.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, it opens the door for us to see other classic, kaijus from the Godzilla series, and I'm interested in that. Yeah. But, like, it does work if it would have been a standalone, but, like... I see what they're doing, and like there's even going to be Godzilla versus King Kong, which that could be very interesting.
I'm gonna love this.
But
yeah. Moving on.
The big point where Jeremy gets to
this is where we get to let Jeremy shine. The topic of we wanted to find something to talk about. So we decided to talk about shooters, and this is where Jordan kind of nods out because he doesn't play any.
Hey, to each their own.
To each their own, buddy.
I play certain ones. I might at some point try Black Ops 3 just because I heard that like the one impeccable thing about Black Ops 3 is like the new zombie mode, which
don't shoot him because he said Black Ops 3.
Okay, but like the one thing that has always been a staple that has been like the standout good thing about Call of Duty has been their zombie mode. Mm-hmm. And supposedly with this one, there are certain mysteries in the zombie mode. Like there's a storyline.
There's a story in each one.
No, but there's a storyline to the zombie mode.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
no, there's always been a story in each one.
A full-fledged one that people still haven't been able to solve yet.
Yeah. So, I think that this is where I'll let Jeremy go and take the reins with probably the shooter that everybody cares about, Fallout 4.
Alright, so I've got two. I'm going to start off with the big one that everybody's got on their mind, which is Fallout 4 right now, and I'm going to finish that up with Halo 5, which is... Halo as a series is a very strong, passionate topic with me.
And then off of that, I'll go into Destiny, which I have not had a chance to talk about on this podcast.
Indeed.
But it'll be after Bungie, so we'll let Jeremy go with that.
Yeah, but it'll be a perfect transition. Alright, so first off, with Fallout 4 here, I started into the Fallout series with Fallout 3, and when I first jumped into it, New Vegas had already been developed along with all the DLCs for it. So and plus the hype for both had long since come and gone. New Vegas was still just kind of starting to die down, but if you know Bethesda games, you know that even though the hype may go away, everybody knows the stability of the product is there. So bugs aside. So there's a couple big obvious changes they made going from just Fallout 3 and New Vegas in general into Fallout 4. One of the biggest ones being is your character has a voice now. And because he has a voice, you interact with other characters in different ways than you did before. And for those of you who are familiar with the Mass Effect series, the dialogue system is incredibly similar to that, which is you now have like a top. I'm going off of the Xbox controls here. You have like the top button Y, the bottom A, left X, and right B. Now each one has a different theme to it. The bottom tier one, the bottom decision is usually like the acceptance, like the yeses, the okay, sure, let's do it. The top one is more of an inquisitory one. It's like the question, what is this? What am I doing? X is usually, if someone gives you a quest, like okay, hey, go blow this thing up. I'll give you 100 caps if you do it. And sometimes you'll get a persuasion option with X. So well, let's strike a deal. Give me a little bit more, and then if your charisma or whatever is high enough, you might succeed or fail at it. Or it's also these sarcastic responses. Usually, like during one mission, you come in and this robot's still running off of its 200-year-old process of hiring whoever walks in the door. So when it asks you what you know about polymer adhesion and research, and if you do the sarcastic item, your character says, well, why don't I tear you open and see how many polymers we find inside there? Options like that. And then B is usually the negatives, the no way, I'm not doing this. So, which is a simpler and streamlined way of looking at character interaction, but isn't necessarily a good thing. One thing that I liked about Fallout 3 is that sometimes, no matter who you talk to, you could have anywhere up. There was no point where you only had a limit of 4 responses. You could sometimes have upwards of 7 or 8. And me personally, I like the fact that your character has a voice, but this might just be, I'm huge when it comes to immersion. So, I don't necessarily design my characters to look like me if there's character design in it.
Who does?
But, so it's like...
There have been so many, posts online where,
Hogan and John Cena.
or Hank Hill in
Right.
Fallout 4.
Oh, yeah. The propane.
I'm bringing the propane.
So, and what I liked about Fallout 3 and New Vegas, along with Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim, for those of you also fans of the Elder Scrolls series, is when I'm selecting my speech option, I usually say it in my own voice while I'm holding the controller and playing the game, and then I select that option, so I feel more a part of the game. With my character having his own voice, it's I feel a bit more separated. Though, for the common public, I'm sure there's a lot of people who do not do that. So it makes it easier to feel like you're a part of the game because you can hear a character's voice in the game saying things to the character. However, with Mass Effect's dialogue system, I've always been iffy on the whole, your character says a loose version of what you're selecting, whereas with the no dialogue version, you're saying exactly what you selected, you just don't hear your character say it. So that's obviously up to interpretation. I definitely think it's a totally awesome and new approach, and games have got to develop sometimes if you want to acquire new audiences.
Yeah.
Plus, Fallout 4 was completely revolutionizing Bethesda's new RPG genre, so it's good to see they're taking a new direction.
And it makes games, especially of that type of genre, the RPG shooter genre, like Borderlands or Mass Effect or is Dead Space one or no?
Dead Space, I believe, is one, yes.
Dead Space, Destiny,
Mm-hmm.
and it advances the genre and
Exactly.
basically. And also, we heard things about sorry to interrupt you, Jeremy.
That's all right.
Apparently the gun mode was based off the Destiny one, and I'm like,
Yes, yeah. A lot of the gunplay, and you can sort of feel it when you're playing, and you like the smoothness of the transitioning between iron sights and some of the ways you reload. It's got a flow that does, and although there's a huge, believe us, there is a huge roller coaster of how people feel about Destiny. The one thing you cannot deny is the gunplay is solid. So, it's definitely cool to see they're drawing from something that's solid like that.
Yeah.
I will say the one thing that I'm most impressed about that I heard about Fallout 4 is how much dialogue there actually is.
Absolutely.
Like, there is a
I remember they
astronomical amount of dialogue that like makes Skyrim pale in comparison.
I remember hearing that there was like an actual number to it.
There is.
It's like over a number of like hours of like
there's
dialogue.
There's a specific
to where
number.
literally people's jaws were like,
Yeah.
what?
It was insane. Going off of that, there is speaking on the immersion thing. They released with it. There was the Pip-Boy thing. You could get collector's edition.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
With an app, you could sync them with your phone. Now I have this app. And I can see how it's very gimmicky, but it's kind of cool being able to use your phone, and obviously if you have the Pip-Boy, you can put it in the Pip-Boy and use it like you would in the game. However, on paper, this sounds like a great idea. When I'm sitting at the Red Rocket gas station customizing my little whatever, and I'm showing off to people how cool this is. Okay, sure, it's cool, but in practice, when you're actually a huge part of the combat mechanic of the Fallout series unless you have stim packs or something hotkeeyed to a directional pad or to a keyboard button, or now, which I'll get to this in a moment, they have more favorite slots for the D-pad. It's incredibly impractical because you'd have to try and select that in real time while enemies are shooting you, whereas in the game all you have to do is press the B button, which completely pauses all in-game content and all combat. You can go and select the stim pack or Radaway or Med-X or whatever you want to use to affect your outcome, and then leave, and then you immediately can jump back into the fray with all these bonuses currently hitting you. Now, some may say this adds a new challenge to it, which if that's the case, then this is perfect for you because it definitely makes you feel like, because in real life, nothing pauses.
No,
so
that's true.
So and that's another thing too.
Unless it's Excel World
exactly,
or other thing,
or as a video game transition, Destiny does not pause in the middle of combat.
Yeah,
it doesn't. You literally hide behind something or you're dead.
Yeah, that actually, on a side note, is actually a very common thing in massive multiplayer online games. There is no actual pause mode.
Yeah, for parents trying to look at their kids who are playing MMOs, there is no pause button. They either play until they get safe or they die.
Yep.
Stop trying to tell them to play pause because it does not exist.
They can't.
They can't.
They can't.
They physically can't.
There is no pause.
Like, you are just punishing them way too much if you are forcing them to stop.
Indeed.
And you can't even pause in Pokemon either, guys. You can't. You're in the middle of a battle, you do it until you die.
Exactly. That was one of my first instances of being told I had to finish up a game because I was in the middle of a Pokemon battle and I hadn't saved. So I will never forget that pain.
I once got suspended because I wouldn't put it down. I'm like, I'll save
geez.
and be
I didn't
done.
go that
Give me
far.
a minute. I'm like, seriously though, give me a minute. I will literally save this game in just in 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes and I'll put it down.
Anyway, getting back to the stim pack thing, they added a new feature which I believe was in the survival mode. Because when you started Fallout New Vegas, you had two options. You could do normal mode or hard mode, which added survival things like hunger, sleep deprivation. You needed to drink water and stuff like that. Not to mention, when you use a stim pack in Fallout 3 and in normal mode in New Vegas, when you use a stim pack, it instantly gives you all those health points back. In survival mode, you apply it and your health gradually goes back up over the course of a few seconds. There are two new things that they added with this. One is that that's how it is default, whether you're playing on survival mode or not. And two, when you use a stim pack, you actually see an animation of your character taking out the stim pack and injecting it into themselves, and you don't see the effect even begin to start until he injects himself with it, which adds an interesting new level of combat dynamic where it's not just, oh my god, I have 1 point of health left and there's 2 bullets an inch away from me, quick pause of the Pip-Boy, hit a stim pack 6 times and I'm good and now I'm invincible again.
Yeah.
You really have to think about combat more. I mean, I've died more so far playing Fallout 4 than I have on any of the other games before because of how new the combat system is. And I'm not frustrated when I die. It's interesting because I'm learning more about the game.
You have to adjust rather than just being used to letting the game do the work for you.
Exactly. Moving off of the combat is they adjusted the VAT system a bit more, which is in New Vegas and in 3, the vault-assisted targeting system. When you would lock onto a target, all motion everywhere paused. The whole game as itself froze, and you could select which body part. Now it doesn't freeze, but it goes into slow motion. But you have a lot where you can actually continue to move your character a small amount, at least looking-wise, while selecting which limb you're going to, and while you're, which actually can give you a bit of an advantage if a character's running towards you, because your enemy is still moving while you're in VATS mode. Like I said, it's not completely frozen. It's just you go into slow motion. Also, they give you a new added ability to execute criticals if your luck skill is high enough. Final thought on Fallout 4 here is there is no longer a skill system with Fallout. With Fallout, it is all perks. Which how that works is instead of which in Fallout it's been like this, it's different than more than the Elder Scrolls series, where to upgrade a skill you just continually use it. In like 3 in New Vegas, there was like a small gun skill which affected how well you did with bullet weapons, and then the big gun skill which is for like rocket launchers and miniguns and stuff like that. Now everything is all perks. And there is no level limit. You can go as high as you want, and you can continue to level long after you. And then there's, obviously there's, as you all know, there's no end to the main storyline. You can keep going indefinitely. So because of that, at any in the previous Fallout games, increase your special stats, strength, perception, so on and so forth. You had to select a specific perk and then add one to your whatever. Now, your special stats and your perks are one and the same. When you level up, you can choose to increase your strength up or choose a perk. I immediately chose to focus a lot of my stuff in intelligence and strength because I am a pack rat in that game. I take anything and everything. So strength is your overall carry weight. And intelligence, I already have that maxed out at 10 because that determines how much experience you get for doing tasks. The more experience you get, the faster it is to level up and choose more perks.
I thought it was hilarious. I read this one thing about this guy who literally put all of his points in charisma and luck.
Yeah, that is an incredibly...
I was being shot at by these gangster guys, and then I was like, hey, no, don't shoot at me. And it's like, hey, I can actually do this job for you. And they're like, oh, okay. And then it's like, oh, but you have to pay me more. Oh, okay.
Yes, and it's an amazing way to play the game. Like, there are so many different angles that you can take Fallout, and that is what's so great about just Bethesda RPGs in general. There is no main angle. You do what you want. I mean, and I'm a huge advocate for the single player environment, and that's why I love Bethesda games. And having an all perk system as compared to a skill system. I'm kind of indifferent on it right now because they both seem equal and the same to me, which is good. I mean, if there was a huge stark contrast, it probably would be a negative. But considering I don't feel like it's affecting gameplay too much, I definitely say it's a solid positive going with an all perk system.
Okay.
So to finish up, that finishes up Fallout 4. Now going off of my single player thing, I made a quick pro and con list for Halo 5. Being a big fan of the series, I was heavily disappointed with 4 and what happened there. Massive unnecessary armor change that has little to no explanation. Anyway, going off of that, there are a couple. I actually was incredibly impressed with Halo 5, and it definitely
gasp.
Yeah, and
I said gasp because I've heard opposite reactions.
Yeah, there are people who are cringing. There are people who are going...
There's a lot of people who did not like where they went with Halo 5.
I didn't like the ending per se because I did watch somebody stream and play it just to get through the story because I'm like, I don't own an Xbox One. I'm not going to have one.
Yeah, I definitely felt the ending was somewhat of a it wasn't even really a cliffhanger.
It felt like a cop out.
Yeah, because it didn't even feel like an ending, honestly. But I'll get to that in a moment. That's definitely on the con list. But let's start with the things I like about it. First biggest thing on the pro list: Nathan Fillion.
That face, though.
Nathan, frickin', this is Halo. This is Halo Nathan Fillion. Okay, Nathan Fillion edition. Okay.
Long story short, Nathan Fillion has been entering the video game universe recently.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead for Halo. I'll get to him in Destiny.
Wait for it. Actually, because even long before Destiny and the most recent Halo games, Nathan Fillion has been providing voice content for Halo games since Halo 3. And he has been known to, and he was known as a huge fan of the Halo series and of Bungie in general, and still is a liaison for Bungie. They do, hire him to do stuff.
Yeah.
So, and he received his first major role in the Halo universe in the game Halo 3 ODST as the ODST Gunnery Sergeant Buck.
The game that nobody likes, but
I love it.
I love it.
Yeah, we love it.
We love it.
We thought the story was amazing.
love ODST.
And for those of you who don't know, Halo 3 ODST is actually a gigantic tribute to Firefly. Buck's character, his face is modeled directly after Nathan Fillion, even more deliciously so in Halo 5.
Oh my gosh.
He literally looks exactly like himself in Halo 5. In Halo 3 ODST, in his squad, Mickey, who is the pilot, is voiced by Alan Tudyk, who was Wash, the pilot, in Firefly, and the heavy weapons and big guns expert, Dutch, is voiced by Adam Baldwin, who was Jane, the big guns guy in Musclehead in Firefly.
With the hat?
Yep, with the hat. So for it's just, throw that out there. So he's a big pro because he is such a person, Buck's character is amazing, and Nathan Fillion is a great actor and voice actor, so that is definitely a pro on my list, so props to Bungie for doing that. Yeah. Another pro is, on every mission that you play as the Chief, they brought back the original Martin O'Donnell-style Halo-theme-esque music for all those missions, and I thought that was amazing. Another new thing is iron sighting. Iron sighting has never been a thing in any Halo game. It's been an arena-style shooter for a while. Iron sighting has always been Battlefield, Call of Duty, etc. Once I started playing Crysis 2 and Battlefield 3, I really liked that as a feature, and I'm glad to see that they implemented it in a great way in Halo 5. Another thing is good sound effects. The shooting and reloading sounds are amazing now. In a shooter game, 75% of what you're doing is shooting and reloading. So if the sound effects are good, that's great. Infinite sprint. That is a huge thing with me because I just like the immersion of when you're running, you lower your gun a bit as you're approaching cover. I like that. And overall, the addition of Master Chief's blue team. We've only ever read about in books. You can now play as any member of blue team. Which all those rounded us some pretty great pros for me for Halo 5. To go on to the cons, going off of the original music and the Chief missions, that's great, but you only get to play as a Chief for 3 missions out of 15 missions in the game. The only squad that's going after the Chief, they're a great bundle of fun, but without Nathan Fillion, they suck. So, unless... without him there, it's really annoying only playing as them for the majority of the game.
They've really been trying to get Locke's character over.
Yeah.
And it's just like, guys, you're forcing something instead of evening it out. Which is what I was trying to expect from this game, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, Locke's character isn't very interesting and is incredibly difficult to read most of the time. But anyway, a second con is the fist fight between the Chief and Locke. There is an altercation that happens between them, and overall, I wasn't too impressed with it. I felt like it should have been much more bombastic and heavy. I don't really want to give out the result of the fight for those of you who haven't played it, but it's definitely something to look for. It's cool for what it is, but it wasn't as epic.
It didn't blow you away.
Exactly. It wasn't as epic as it could have been. Another con here is there's a bunch of short missions, and you actually get achievements or trophies for completing these missions that literally, even if you try to do everything there is to do, take no longer than 5 minutes. And there is no combat, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you just go around and you just talk to people. Your leader will say, okay, go talk to Dr. Halsey. Oh, go talk to Palmer. Okay, hi Palmer. Okay, here's the thing. Go talk to Dr. Halsey again. Okay, now go do this.
It's like they're trying to add RPG elements to a series that doesn't need it.
Yeah, some of the staff who worked on BioShock Infinite was present during the development of this game. So you can definitely feel that BioShock Infinite feel during those missions, but it seemed redundant and kind of unnecessary. Plus, you get a pretty hefty achievement for completing that. And I was like, really? I don't feel like that is... And they count as a mission towards the 15. And I believe there's 3 of them. It's been about a week or 2 since I played through the whole thing. But that ends my con list. There aren't as many cons as there are pros, which is why I do have a happy feeling about Halo 5. Plus, a big addition, I'm all for player versus enemy combat, which will move us shortly here into Darren's segment about Destiny. But there's a multiplayer mode, which, you know, and I'm not too huge on a lot of multiplayer stuff. There's a multiplayer mode called Warzone, which incorporates bot enemies into the game. And you actually score more points in that for killing those guys than you do for defeating other players. I thought that was a great addition to the Halo multiplayer environments, and so overall, I have to say I'm pretty satisfied with Halo 5. Definitely very different from where Halo 4 was, and from the Halo series in general, but just considering this is the kind of stuff I've been wanting in a Halo game for a while, especially after being introduced to different shooters like Crysis 2, Battlefield, etc. I'm very happy that they went with a more modern feel, because as we've been saying, sometimes things need to evolve in order to stay interesting and to attract new audiences.
Yeah.
So
okay.
your points about
You're gonna have to bridge it though, because we're already like 10 minutes over.
So, okay, Destiny, Taken King. So, that came out several months ago. Contrary about Destiny aside, this is going to be a pro-Destiny conversation. And I will keep it brief as much as I possibly can. But, okay, Taken King. When it came to the DLC that came in Destiny, there was the original Destiny game, which had its own storyline that you could finish inside of literally 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
And point period, once you were done, you're probably teed off because there's not much left to do. There were a few strikes, but not many, and then there was the raid. And mind you, before the patches, before all this stuff got added, raiding in Destiny was hard because they made the stupid idea of not doing matchmaking. Mm-hmm. I don't understand that. Well, you make friends. How do you make friends in Destiny? You can't, there's no chat box. There's nothing. Yeah, people might walk up to you and go and add you and say, in messages, hey, do you want to do this? But sometimes for certain people, it's not that easy.
Yeah.
I mean, with female gamers aside, the female gamers who don't talk at all during games and just play the game and don't say a dang thing, keep their mics off, that aside, how do you make friends in Destiny in a game that isn't friendly towards that?
Yeah.
And then, but overall, I love the story in Destiny. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much one of my most favorite games to play today. And then you go into the Dark Below stuff. The Dark Below is the first time where the story gets, in my case, really interesting. Mm-hmm. Because then you bring in Crota, and you bring in all the stuff that he did to, God dang it, I can't remember her name, but all the stuff she did against somebody who went down into the dark of the moon. Because the Hive had been in the moon since kicking us off the moon centuries ago.
Yeah.
And we eventually had to abandon the moon and retreat completely to Earth, to where now we're in one city. We're in one last city by ourselves. And because of that, dang, I cannot believe I cannot remember her name. It's really hurting me. Jordan, look it up. Pretty much, look it up on the internet.
Look up what?
Look it up.
Don't worry about it.
No, just don't worry about it. Just go.
Okay, whatever. But anyway, it's pretty much you're getting revenge for a fire team that went down into the Dark Below and only one person came back. And
dang.
Pretty much, you're gonna go down and fight a god.
Yeah.
And if anybody, I know people are like, "Oh, you're talking about God in the game." Who cares? Who cares? If you fight Crota, you know why.
Yeah.
But there's all these nice story mode missions that lead you to fighting all of Crota's followers, and it goes into depth, not so much depth, but depth enough to how powerful he is, and how he influences everything.
Yeah.
Finally leading up to the raid where you have to kill Crota with his own sword.
Nice.
That was good AOC, and then you went into House of Wolves, where you fight the House of Wolves as you literally chase them across every planet in the game. You chase them, you fight the fire teams off in the wild when you're just doing patrols, and especially somebody who did not have DLC for the longest time, you died against those patrols.
Yeah.
Because they were so OP you couldn't even see their levels.
Yep.
And then, bringing us to the current one, the Taken King. The Taken King added hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of content that I'm still going through 2 months later.
Mm-hmm.
And point period, you fight Oryx, the Taken King, who is the father of Crota, who ended up creating him long ago. Pretty much, he comes to the solar system and wipes out the Awoken immediately.
Yeah.
Pretty much wipes out everybody. Supposedly kills the queen. I don't know if she's alive yet. And point period, almost all the Awoken are decimated, and you have to go into the Dreadnought to find and kill Crota. Mm-hmm. He is literally baiting you across every system, and then we bring in Nathan Fillion.
Oh my gosh.
Nathan Fillion is Cade in this. He is the Hunter Vanguard in the game.
Yep.
And point period, once you meet Cade is just literally spends the entire time sassing everybody. And you know it's Nathan Fillion and the way he talks, the way he acts. And he is just a presence in every mission you do.
And he makes you feel really bad because every time you leave and go away, he's like, hey, take me with you, please. Because he really doesn't want to be there.
Because he's the leader of the Vanguard, and the other two Vanguards, which nobody likes, the Titan Vanguard and the Warlock Vanguard, they make him stay and not fight at all.
Side note, the Warlock Vanguard is voiced by the same chick who plays Zoe, Wash's wife in Firefly.
Oh my god, I did not know that.
Now you know.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe! But, long story short, Destiny made the game better once you get to the Taken King. So for people who are like, oh, I don't know if I should try Destiny, give it a shot.
Especially now that the Taken King's
Now the Taken King's out, and it's one full-on purchase for $60. And especially what they did for me when the game came out, I brought my original one, and they gave me $20 off for it.
There you go.
So that might still be a thing. I don't know if it is. Don't cut my head off if it's not. Give the Taken King a try.
A twy.
That's why.
Please,
the story
please give the
Taken
King a twy.
Give the Taken King a try.
Please.
If anything, it makes the game infinitely...
Nathan
Nathan Fillion. It makes the game immediately longer. You're still going to be doing stuff about 4 months from now. Mm-hmm. Also, they added small little secret quests. Like, they give you an advanced version of the
You are
Exos...
so on edge right now.
I'm sorry. But they give you an advanced version of the Exo sniper... Not the Exo. The Exo Stranger sniper rifle. Or not sniper rifle. Pulse rifle. Which vastly and immediately after you beat the game became underrated and underused. Yep. So they give you a better version at the end of a secret quest that I'm still now doing, the Not Forged in Light quest. But like I said, give the Taken King a try, and we're running out of time. I'll talk about Overwatch later.
Yeah, we went really over time.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
You're fine.
This is like back to like episode 3 or 4 where we're just like, oh hey, yeah, we're gonna do this in an hour. No, hey, look, it's an hour and a half later. No, but yeah, thank you for being here.
Thanks for being here,
buddy. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
That was an experience in and of itself, especially toward the beginning where we were just trolling the crap out of Darian.
Screw you two.
I'm glad I could add some quality content.
You know it was fun. Oh,
it's not Cookie, guys.
It was totally Cookie.
Keep telling yourself, Jack Jordan.
I will. I will try to keep telling myself.
And you wonder why people like me more than they like you. I'm relatable, where Jordan's so...
Wonder. No, that would not be the word I'm trying to use. But no, like, it's good to have somebody, especially like on the Xbox side of things,
especially since we are so sorely lacking in that side of the franchise.
I mean, I'm a Nintendo fanboy, so it's like,
and then I'm over here on the Sony side of things.
Yeah.
Anytime you need me to come back and give some input, I'm always glad to do that.
Okay.
So if we call you, you'll show up?
Maybe.
Okay. But, yeah, that's more or less what we got for this episode. Next episode, you'll probably hear us talk about, the anime coming up for next year. I would say,
yeah,
because like that's about when we're gonna have like the information for it.
Yeah.
Hopefully by then too, we also have information on the next Super Sentai.
Hopefully, because they haven't told us crap.
We Darren and I were talking about it before we started. It's like, oh hey, wait, we forgot about this, and it's like, oh, I mean, we don't really have information on it yet, so maybe next time. We have like a name. We have like a possible rumor, like what the story's gonna be, but we don't have any concrete.
So that's why we're not gonna tell you anything.
And like. Because the thing is, episode 38 just came out of Ninja.
At most, they've got 12 left.
Yeah. No.
Wouldn't they have 12 left?
No. Most Super Sentai series end around 47 to 48 episodes, if they're lucky.
That's still like 10. So I'm around there.
But, like, it never really gets up to 50 unless it's, like, Gokaiger, but Gokaiger is a special exception in and of itself. But yeah, it's coming up. Like, yeah, the new Super Sentai will be in like March.
Get your stuff together.
Yeah.
So yeah.
They're probably just waiting for like the story to be over so they can drop it all at once.
No, December is usually when we get the news, though.
Well, we'll get that
But,
soon.
yeah.
Also, Kamen Rider Ghost came out. We'll actually have a proper opinion by then.
Yeah.
I already do have a proper opinion by now, but
both
we'll
have
wait
collective
for
opinion.
them. Okay.
Right.
Yes, have to get that
So this has been the Dork List. I'm Darian Christian.
I'm Jordan Fay.
And I'm Jeremy McCloud.
Hope he comes back.
Yes!
Yeah, that would be pretty cookie.
That would be cookie.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks
Later.
for joining us on the Dork List.